Hello and welcome everybody to this Dublin Region Open Data Active Travel Challenge Showcase. We have a packed agenda for you today, so I won't spend too long doing the intros. Just to say we have a keynote speaker, that's Ciaran Cuffe MEP, and then followed by the projects which are going to be showcased today, which are all about promoting and encouraging walking and cycling and active travel. We'll finish up then with an awards, because this was a challenge and we do have 3 prize winners we'd like to introduce at the end. And just introduce myself, I'm Luke Binns and I'm a projects coordinator for Smart Dublin. Slide. So Smart Dublin is an initiative of the 4 Dublin local authorities, and we look after the open data portal for the Dublin region, which you can access at data.smartdublin.ie. So we publish open data and we engage with the National Open Data Strategy, which is looked after by DEPA, and the Open Data Engagement Fund to promote engagement with our open data. We're awarded funding for this initiative, which is the Active Travel Challenge, which uses open data to promote and encourage all means of active travel. So we really saw this as a way to get people to engage with what we have, and also to see and encourage the types of innovation that are out there that use open data. Slide, please. So we awarded the funding and we set about setting up an organizing committee of lots of active travel and data stakeholders. So we have representation from the 4 Dublin local authorities, national bodies such as the NTA, Smarter Mobility or Smarter Travel Program, which encourages active travel to work and to colleges and so forth. They have lots of incentive schemes, and I would definitely encourage you to look them up. The Green Schools program from Untitled, which again encourages active travel to school and has the Safe Routes to School program. Get Walking Ireland, who again are the national representative body for walking, and have an app which will incentivize and show routes and so forth for walking. And then Cycling Ireland, who are the equivalent for cycling, and have lots of really useful initiatives, such as the cycling training that I did with them recently. So definitely worth checking out as well. We also had academic input from the likes of TU Dublin's transport engineering section, tourism perspective from our own smart tourism program, and then advice and support from the open data experts at Dairy Links. So we had a strong organizing committee, thank you, and we set out this process. So we set out this call to action. We launched in March. We got 38 applications. We shortlisted the 12 best of them, which you're going to see today. And from those 12, we'll have 3 prize winners. So there's a process whereby this organizing committee took in mentorship. They collaborate with the projects, they advise the projects, and they help with the assessment and evaluation too. Slide. So I won't spend any more time giving any more background. I'll get straight on to our keynote speaker, who is Ciaran Cuffe MEP. He's an architect planner and also a lecturer in TU Dublin in this area. He served as a Dublin City Councillor, a TD for Dún Laoghaire-Rathdown, and Minister of State for Sustainable Transport. And fun fact, once cycled apparently from coast to coast in the USA, so has strong active travel credentials. So if we stop sharing the presentation and move on to our keynote. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Luke. And it's funny to see that picture of me from, I think, about 10 years ago with my tag-along bike. I guess, look, I've been traveling around, well, I'm 57, I've been 58. I've been traveling around Europe for a long time, and around Dublin for a long time, and Europe, I guess, for a little bit less. But I guess when I look at Dublin, I see it both through the windscreen of a car, but over the handlebars of a bike, or by using my shoe leather to make my way down the street. And I think whatever way you travel, it influences your perception and your thoughts on how we can travel better. But I think it's hugely important that you look at it from different angles. And I think using different modes gives you insights and perspective on how to travel. And that photo you used from about 10 years ago, I think I was coming in the front gates of Dáil Éireann with my children's tag-along bicycle behind. The experience of raising children in Dublin's inner city and bringing them to and from school using Activetravel gives you insights into what needs to change. And I have to say, having spent about 10 years traveling with two kids from where I live in Stoneybatter across to the school on Parnell Square, it was a challenge, and it still is a challenge to try and travel safely and comfortably with children using Activetravel. And I think that illustrates the challenge that we often have in making walking and cycling easy and making them normal. And I guess when I started traveling with my kids on child seats and on those tag-along bicycles, people would look at you going down the street. And in fact, I remember being pulled in by Mcguire the Síochána and being told I shouldn't travel like that. And I'm thankful that attitudes have changed, and that I think a lot of the key decision makers in both the political side of things and in the professional engineering side of things now understand the imperative to prioritize active travel, not just in Dublin, but in towns and cities around Ireland and around the 27 member states of the European Union. And indeed, in many respects, the COVID pandemic has been both a crisis and an opportunity to improve the active travel offering. I think initially to ensure that there was adequate distance between people on our pavements, but more recently, they understand the close links between encouraging active travel, leading an active and healthy lifestyle, and improving urban air quality. So it can be a win-win from many angles. And I think open data has a key role to play on this. It's useful not only for creating solutions to society's problems, but for transparency purposes so that citizens are better informed. And when it comes to active travel, it can play a very important role. Active travel will be crucial in cleaning up transport in urban areas, and crucially in improving the livability of our cities and towns. And it needs to feature as part of a sustainable transport mix that has public transport as the backbone. We know the problems that we face as a result of our current transport system: congestion, emissions, air pollution, noise pollution, biodiversity loss, accidents, and the propensity towards obesity. So I quote a figure almost everywhere I go on this, but it's really so important to remember how big the impact the current transport system has on our health and our environment. The costs to society across the European Union are almost €1 trillion a year of transport. And if we add to this the impact the dominance of private cars have on the public realm in terms of reduced space for citizens, for businesses, and for children, the costs are even higher. And that €1 trillion figure, it's not my number, it comes from a European Commission report. So active travel is really important in reducing and eliminating these costs, which are borne by society as a whole and often by the most vulnerable. If I was using a slide deck today, an image I love putting up is that of an older woman pushing her trolley to and from her home to the shops in the middle of Dublin. And I often say we should use, the illustration of an older woman pushing a trolley, which might contain her shopping. It might act as a little bit of support on footpaths that are often not the best. But if we can make our cities safe for that woman pushing her trolley, we can make them safe for anyone. And active mobility is so important in reducing and ultimately eliminating these costs, which are often borne by society as a whole and often by the most vulnerable. Active travel isn't trivial. I mean, these costs show the enormous impact our transport system has on society. So I think reducing the share of private motorised transport in favour of public transport and active travel is a social justice issue as well as an environmental justice issue. And looking at Dublin, if we can get our cycling share up to the kind of levels that we see in Copenhagen, around 50%, or Amsterdam at 35%, we can seriously improve the life of Dublin's residents. And those cities have the same, if not worse weather than Dublin. I was just looking at the annual precipitation. In Amsterdam, it's more than 10% higher than Dublin. In Copenhagen, it's perhaps 10% less. But really, what stops people taking up walking and cycling is the environment in which they operate. And I think we need to boost active travel to make this happen. And what we've seen with the temporary measures as a result of COVID is really encouraging. The right infrastructure combined with safe speed limits, and I mean 30 kilometers per hour, this can really incentivize people to walk and to cycle. And car-clogged streets doesn't help. So we need to reallocate the public space that we have out there. A little bit more space for the pedestrian, wider footpaths, to me, is the secret weapon in the transport planner's armory, and providing segregated cycle lanes. And data is crucial to helping us know more about the problems we're facing so that we can measure these issues and then plan and implement the right responses to them. For instance, some great research was done by my colleagues, my former colleagues in TU Dublin, then DIT, under Dave O'Connor, to measure how people, the very simple issue, how do people get to the shops in central Dublin and how much do they spend? And certainly a decade ago, if you asked the shopkeepers, they would say the majority of their customers came by car. But the pioneering work by Dave O'Connor, which was replicated by, the National Transport Authority, showed that more people were coming by bus than by other transport modes. About 40% were coming by bus, about 20% were walking, about 20% were coming by car. So the car was the minority when it came by both spend and transport mode. And I think those figures that came from data showed what we need to do to make it more attractive for those who cycle, walk, and use public transport. And I think now, particularly with the changes in the last few years, let's look at what's happening with e-mobility, with electric vehicles, with electric scooters, and with all these new micro mobility ways of getting around. And citizen science is crucial in all of this. The kind of data that people can record on their own travel patterns or on air quality in their home or outside their home is really interesting. Here in Brussels, recently, there's been a citizens' initiative on measuring local air quality. And this is not only enlightening for citizens, but it can also spur the momentum for change and highlight these issues in the media. Information about potholes, about dangerous junctions, it helps local authorities respond and make travel safer. And it's a two-way street between citizens and activists and then the decision makers, and it can be really mutually beneficial. A word at the European Union level, certainly the data from COVID measures is extraordinary, and pretty much every town and city around Europe has put in measures to support active travel as a result of the COVID pandemic. And I think that is starting to feed into the legislation that we're bringing about at a European Union level. It's all part of the move to decarbonize the transport sector. Here in Brussels today, it's a big day. You may have heard of the Fit for 55 package, and essentially we're going to see 13 draft pieces of legislation being launched today and we'll be amending them in the European Parliament over the months and indeed years ahead. And it's all about reducing the European carbon emissions 55% between 1990 and 2030. So it's going to be a big day today in Brussels. And I think the legislation we're seeing with the climate law in Ireland will be working with the European measures to try and decarbonize our economy in Ireland. But transport can and should lead the way in this, and I think there's huge opportunities in Dublin and everywhere else. Evidence-based research and open data will play a leading role in all of this, and I think it is crucial. And I just want to end by using a quote from an American poet who said that we have to navigate, at sea we must navigate not by the lights of the passing ships, but by the skies in the firmament above. In other words, we have to focus on the long term as well as the short term. We have to act on the evidence, and I think open data is part of that evidence and will help us better navigate the stormy seas of dealing with a climate crisis, a biodiversity crisis, and many of the other crises brought on by both the pandemic and by our greenhouse gas emissions. I have no doubt that the ship is in safe hands with those of you who are doing pioneering work with open data. I'm looking forward to hearing about the solutions, and certainly I think we're up to the challenge in both Ireland and Europe. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Ciaran. Very, I suppose, inspiring and challenging. You set out for us there a vision of, I suppose, €1 trillion that we have to save. And we know that Activetravel is the cheapest way to get from A to B. A health and obesity aspects that we want to address. 55% emissions that we need to get down to, and then of course the target that Copenhagen has that we're going to work towards is 50% active travel to work and school. So that's a lot to put in front of us and to look forward to, and hopefully we'll work our way towards it. So if I could get the slideshow back on, we'll press on. Thank you, Ciaran.
Thank you.
Oh, that's brilliant. So next slide, please. So we're going to move on to the showcase itself now. So as mentioned, we have 12 really powerful projects and solutions that are going to be showcased today, and they'll be showing us how they have used open data to encourage and support walking and cycling and active travel. So this is the running order here. We have Safe Points, followed by dublinbikeparking.com, the Automatic Broken Bike Detection Project by Joshua Tobin, Active Travel to School, Investments for Impact, Where's the Crack, Mapping Low Traffic Neighbourhoods, Not Made of Sugar, Co-designing Street Layouts through Widen My Path, Urban Routes, Popular Routes Without Infrastructure for Cycling, ActiveTravelCounts.ie, and then lastly, Dublin Bay by Bike. So just go on to the next slide. Sorry, back 2 slides, please. So we have a Q&A function. So we don't have time to do a Q&A. We won't be asking the presenters questions and so forth. However, we do have a Q&A function in the chat. So you as delegates today can use your chat to pose your questions to any of the presenters that have presented their solution. So you can engage with them directly via the chat. Ask them about their projects. Perhaps you might want to exchange emails for further communication, that kind of thing. You're free to do that via the chat and they will respond to you. You'll find their names there in the chat, which correspond to the ones which I just said there. And we'll be saying as we introduce them through. So without further ado, I'd like to move on to the presentations. One more slide, please. We'll start off with Safe Points. And we have Michael Brown, I think, representing Safe Point today. Michael, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Luke. So for today, we're actually going to show you a video of our presentation because one of our teammates, Shane, is currently at the other side of the world in New Zealand. So I think you've got the video queued up, do you? Yeah, So hopefully it plays well. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Scientist working for McDonald, a global engineering consultancy firm based in London.
Hi, my name is Shane. Currently I'm working as a civil asset engineer for a Tier 1 contractor in Auckland, New Zealand.
We are Team SafePoints. We set out to provide an alternative option for giving people directions. We all know someone who has a story about a road accident. A few years back, while living in Cork, I was cycling to work when my front wheel hit a pothole after a roundabout. I flew over the handlebars and slid along the road, cutting the side of my stomach pretty badly.
My housemate Magda used to cycle to work every day, decked out in all the gear, helmet, fluorescent vest, lights. From Harold's Cross, down the canal, all the way to Grand Canal Dock. One day she got hit by a driver who couldn't see her. After she recovered, she never cycled to work again. She didn't feel like she would be seen. She didn't feel safe. And she isn't the only one. In a survey conducted by the journal.ie in April 2020, 66% of people said they don't feel safe on Irish roads.
We're all aware of the current mapping applications out there. Google, Apple and Bing will give you directions based on the shortest route, the fastest route, the route with no toll roads and more. But they rarely, if at all, suggest a route based on safety. So we set out to do just that. There are many different safety criteria we could have considered, but for this demo, we chose to focus on street lighting, because as the RSA says every year, be safe, be seen.
We gathered data on every street in Dublin County. We obtained public lighting data from Smart City Dublin and integrated both data sets to produce a complete map of the public lighting data available in Dublin. The result, we can give you a route from the Guinness Storehouse to Grogan's Pub, which has the most lights. So whether you are cycling or walking in the dark, you know you will be visible and everything around you will be visible to you. As a comparison, we also show routes that are the fastest and shortest to those destinations. We can then supplement this data with additional information, like the faulty streetlight info from fixmystreets.ie, so we know where the community have highlighted areas where lights could be broken and factor this into our suggestion. This is live on our website, safepoints.ie, and the code to get this routing information will be open to anyone to use and to integrate into their own solutions in the coming weeks.
The beauty of this approach is we can apply this to most other data. People might prefer to cycle on quieter roads, or roads without potholes, or just stick to cycleways. We can work with any local authority or organisation to customise this and integrate it seamlessly into their own solutions.
And the applications for it, they don't just stop at safety. For example, tourism. Say there's a film festival on. Someone opens up your app looking to go to the Lighthouse Cinema. They've got plenty of time though, so why not suggest an alternate route that takes them down some streets, past some shop windows exhibiting costumes from famous films. Make the journey part of the experience. We encourage you to use the website to see how the application works, and if you'd like to discuss how to integrate this into your own solutions, please don't hesitate to contact us.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you the rest of the SafePoints team. As the presentation stated there, the SafePoints website is at safepoints.ie, and Michael is there on the Q&A in the chat if you want to reach out to Michael and to have a conversation with him while the other presentations are taking place. Speaking of other presentations, we'll move on now to our second one, which is Katie Chapman. And Katie runs DublinBikeParking.com. So Katie, can I introduce?
Hi. Hi, I'm Katie Chapman. I'm a software engineer and I love being able to cycle around the city. I've been involved in both iBike Dublin, Dublin Cycling Campaign, and most recently the Bike Hub, which is a community bike workshop with inclusive bikes in partnership with Dún Laoghaire County Council out in Dún Laoghaire. I've also been involved in Coder Dojo, running free coding clubs for kids to learn how to code. Slide. I've sometimes found myself not being able to find parking after cycling to a friend's house or a shop, wishing there was some way to find the nearest stand rather than having to go searching, walking my bike around the place. So I made dublinbikeparking.com to help with this. It helps users find their closest stand just by opening the site on any device with a web browser. Users can also use it to find their closest Dublin bike stand, and the site has always displayed where the stands are, but with the introduction of stationless bike schemes like Bleeper and Mobi, I decided that the challenge was a great opportunity to add real-time info for these bikes, as well as Dublin bikes, to help users find ways of cycling whether they have their own bike or not. Slide. As you can see on the screen, the site now also shows the availability of Dublin bikes and Dublin bike stands, meaning that users can figure out whether the stands have bikes or not before going there. This uses JC Dassault's APIs to augment the map with this data. Slide, please. Alongside Dublin bikes, the map will also show the real-time location of Mobi and Bleeper bikes. This will let users find those bikes near them as easily as they can find stands on the site. This uses the open data from both Bleeper and Mobi to get real-time data from each of the providers, meaning that we can provide up-to-date information to users, making using a bike easy whether you're hiring or you have your own. Slide, please. In the regular stand view, you can see bike stands and what types they are. The data that I have at the moment is from Dunleary-Rathdown County Council and Dublin City Council, as well as user contributions from the map. I'd love to get data from Fingal and South Dublin County Council, as well as any other councils out there. So if anyone here can help with that, I'd love to hear from you. Slide. The goal of the project overall is to make journeys by bike as easy as possible. The website makes it possible for users to use any device with a web browser to find a bike stand, either before a trip or at their destination while trying to find a stand. Hopefully this will make cycling an easier choice and keep people cycling once they get going, and share with their friends how easy it is. Slide, please. The project is pretty stable at the moment and it doesn't require much maintenance other than staying hosted. The software behind it is open source, meaning that someone else can pick it up and run a site if I wasn't able to anymore. My hope for the future is that as time goes on, we might be able to get real-time stand availability data like we have for some city centre car parks. And that might help users find nearby stands which aren't occupied. It'll also help councils pick out spots to add more stands in and find when bikes have been left for long periods of time. I'd be really interested in talking with anyone who has seen solutions like that before. And that's the project. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Katie. So yes, dublinbikeparking.com, it is live and you can find your nearest parking stand there for bike parking. You can report them if, for example, there's one that's gone missing or is broken or something like that. And you can also now find where your nearest bike share availability is too. So brilliant. Thanks for sharing us with that, Katie. Can we now move on to our next presenter, who is Joshua Turbine, and he's going to tell us about his automatic bike detection project. Joshua, please.
Thanks a million, Luke, and thanks to everyone for coming. My name is Joshua Tobin, and I'm a PhD candidate in statistics at Trinity College Dublin. I use machine learning basically to try to detect unusual data points or observations in really large data sets. So the fast algorithms that we develop as part of our work have a really natural application in predictive maintenance, and especially predictive maintenance for large and dynamic systems. So as part of the Activetravel challenge, I developed an algorithm that predicts in real time bikes in need of repair in Dublin's dockless bike sharing systems. In fact, we give a score for each bike showing how likely we think it is to be broken or to require maintenance. And next slide, please. So proactive detection of unusual bikes could really revolutionize the service offered by bike sharing in Dublin, and as a result has great benefits for Activetravel in our city. Firstly, it would reduce waste, maintenance waste, removing a major barrier for service expansion for operators. It would encourage them to broaden the geographic network across the city and deepen the service that they offer in terms of the number and the variety of bikes which are offered. Secondly, it would eradicate one of the major complaints offered by users and improve the safety of the service offered to everyone. Finally, information on the bike state would provide really useful information to operators about users, and secondly, about the service to council supervisors overlooking the network. Over the course of the challenge, I built a working prototype, which is the first ever publicly available broken bike detection algorithm. And secondly, the first ever algorithm that detects broken bikes using only open data. The data set which we built synthesizes real-time snapshots of the bike sharing systems across the city, environmental information about Dublin, and of course, weather information, which is very important when deciding who's going to be going cycling. So anyone who's interested in the method can go to the project GitHub page and download it and see what you think. You can also keep an eye on it because I don't think the work is going to be done. There's going to be still stuff being uploaded onto it. Next slide, please. So you can see on the right then some of the things that we actually did over the course of the project, with the first image just showing different locations of the bikes across the city in gray, and then the moving ones in orange. And then down beneath that, you can see the actual predictions which we've developed for bikes which our algorithm thinks are likely to be broken, highlighted in yellow. Thanks to Luke and Alan and Catherine, everyone involved with Smart Dublin, we managed to put our proposals in front of Dublin's bike sharing operators, and they've agreed to share their maintenance data with us for continued work. Now, once we have this maintenance data, it requires a bit of a redesign of our approach and hugely extensive validation, which is already underway. There's still a good bit to go, but the initial results are really, really exciting. So over the medium term, the overall aim is to introduce our method into the actual maintenance practices of these bike sharing systems, making Dublin a world leader in terms of predictive maintenance for its bike share. But we don't just want to limit it to Dublin. We're excited to actually try and make broken bike detection a standard use case for Activetravel open data. And we look forward to working with Smart Dublin and their involvement with POLIS, the intercouncil agency. So anyone who's interested in the work, or anyone who has any expertise in open data standards for Activetravel, I'd be really delighted to hear. And I just want to take the opportunity then to thank Luke especially and everyone involved with Smart Dublin for the opportunity to participate in the challenge. Thanks a million.
Thank you, Joshua. Thanks for all the thanks. And no, seriously, it's brilliant to hear this really pioneering work, and it's stuff that isn't being done anywhere else and could have really, I suppose, far-reaching implications and applications. So that's brilliant. It seems like you've a lot done, but you've a lot more ahead of you still. So very good. Thanks, Joshua. If we can move on to our next speaker here, who I have on my list as John Kennedy, and we're moving on to Activetravel to school. And John's going to tell us about locating Activetravel investments for impact. So, John Kennedy.
Thanks, Luke. Hello, everybody. My name is John Kennedy, and I've recently founded Digital Nature, a consultancy focused on geospatial data, GIS, and IT solutions in the environmental, biodiversity, and sustainability domains. Slide, please. So, for this Activetravel challenge, I wondered if there are areas in the Dublin region that have unusually low Activetravel to school. I wondered where might Dublin local authorities and other stakeholders direct investment to maximize Activetravel to school. And I wondered, could open data help? Slide, please. So helpfully, the most recent census contained new questions on commuting. The resulting data allows the numbers commuting by Activetravel to be calculated, and commuters to school with the possibility of converting to Activetravel can also be established. Slide. Merging this census data with other open data sets, I've developed a suite of online reports that analyze Activetravel to school across the Dublin region with a specific report for each local authority. Each report includes a set of interactive maps and highlights the top 20 opportunities for investment in Activetravel to school. Slide, please. The maps showing percentages of Activetravel to school reveal that rural areas have less Activetravel in percentage terms, as might be expected. But the absolute numbers of journeys to schools that could be converted to Activetravel have also been mapped, and these reveal some surprising results, particularly noticeable at the small area level. Slide. Each small area contains between 80 and 120 dwellings, and the data reveals that some small areas, such as Blakestown here on the left, have significant opportunity for converting journeys to school to Activetravel, even though there are several schools, in this case 5, very close by. The schools are the blue dots. Slide, please. The 20 small areas with the greatest opportunity to convert to active travel are detailed in a table in each of the reports and highlighted in the key opportunities map. Tap, please. Yeah. The map backgrounds and layers can be adjusted to reveal locations of schools, cycle lanes, walls, and fences, and these can help understand the actual routes to schools. One more tap. Separately, tools like Mapillary and Google Street View can be used to examine if there are potential opportunities on the ground to encourage active travel. At this key roundabout beside Blakestown, there appear to be opportunities to cam the 2-lane distributor road, provide dedicated signal control crossings, and improve permeability. Slide. The project could be readily extended to examine commuting via sustainable modes of transport, as well as active travel to work. And the census next year also promises to provide compelling new data. Not only will it allow the lists of opportunities to be refreshed, but it will also help reveal the impact of today's active travel investments and the associated benefits they're delivering for the citizens of Dublin. Slide. So yeah, my thanks to all who supported this project. You're all invited to explore the reports online at digitalnature.ie. And yeah, I welcome any questions that may have through the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And thanks for that reminder about the Q&A. I can see there's some questions coming in and some responses going out, but do please keep them coming. Reach out to John and to all the other presenters that have gone so far. We've got 4 done and we've got 8 more to go. So we'll keep them coming. Thanks again, John. And we'll move on to the next one. Just to say, John's application, if you do go in there and you do zoom in very close, you can see a real neighborhood level where the active travel isn't taking place and really what the smallest little intervention could be done to change a very long way around to a very short way around to get to that school. So it's really fascinating for any transport planners, particularly those looking at active travel to school. So the next presenters are Los Pedalinks. It is Katie McLaughlin, Luciana Pires, and Rob Tobin. And I think we're being presented today by Katie, and they all work for Jacob. So it's called Where's the Crack? Previously, My 15-Minute City. Katie, would you like to take the floor?
Thanks, Luke. So as Luke said, we're Los Pedalinks, and it's our mission to help you explore your neighborhood with our tool, Where's the Crack? Slide, please. This is us, Rob Tobin, Luciana Pires, and myself, Katie McLaughlin. We're all transport planners at Jacobs in Dublin, and we love data and coding, so we really want to use this to encourage more active travel. So firstly, for some background, looking at the 2019 National Travel Survey, thanks. For journeys 2 kilometers or less, we found that only about 38% of these are made by walking or cycling, and most of these short trips are made by private car, 57%. Also, 11% of all short trips are for either leisure-related reasons or to eat or drink. So these trips are quite significant. Our goal is to decrease the number of car trips, both short and long ones, and to increase the amount of short trips made by walking or cycling. Slide, please. And we have a demo here. Our solution to improving active travel is an easily accessible web map, Where's the Crack? And this uses open data to show you which leisure sites you can reach in a 5, 10, or 15-minute walk or cycle. To reach it, you just go to whereisthecrack.com. You can just click straight away, and that will use the default options of walking for 15 minutes. But if we set that to bike for 5 minutes, then you just pick a location anywhere in Dublin. We'll go in and take this spot here in Stony Batter. And here's the result. This blue area is an isochrone, in this case showing everywhere you can reach by cycling for just 5 minutes from our start point. And all these icons are different options to visit. You can really see how full of life Dublin is. We show Dublin bike stations to help get around, some parks, museums, performance venues. You'll also see facts like this around the city, like this one about the Broadstone terminus, which used to be the end of the Sligo line. Then below the map, we have a list of all the sites found for the mode and travel time. There are links where locations of relevant websites and also a summary table by category. So on to the next one, please. These are all the different open data sets that we showcased, 24 of them for now. These are mainly from Smart Dublin's open data portal. We also put together a few of our own, including Instagrammable sites, which are the top 20 locations tagged on Instagram in Dublin. And next one again, please. So what's next? We only had the idea when we started the challenge. So everything we've achieved has been over the past 2 months, but we do have plenty more planned for Where's the Crack. We want to make the interface as user-friendly as it can be and to invite more people to try it out. Then in the longer term, we'll share it more widely and remove the usage limitations so we can make it work across Ireland and even globally. We'd also like to develop an app version. And of course, we're going to keep seeking feedback from users over time and responding to that. So slide, please. Finally, if you're interested in trying it out, we'd love your support. You can find it at the site below, whereisthecrack.com. Our email address is on that site, and we'd love to hear any feedback you might have. Feel free to send it on to anyone you know. We'd really appreciate that as well. And if you have any ideas for data sets that could improve the tool, please do get in touch as well. In any case, we hope you enjoy Where's the Crack and that you can discover some new crack a short walk or cycle away from you. Thanks. That's it.
Yep, we're good. Okay, thank you, Katie. That's brilliant. Thanks a lot for talking us through that. And again, as Katie says there, if anybody wants to reach out to her, they can do it on the Q&A. You can check out the website there, and we'll also be providing the emails at the end of all the presenters today. So thanks again, Katie. And we'll move on to our next project now, which is Martin Lucas Smith is going to present to us on mapping low traffic neighbourhoods. So Martin, can you take the floor, please?
Thanks a million, Luke. Hello, everyone. So our project is about mapping low traffic neighbourhoods. First slide, please. So just to introduce yourselves, I'm Martin from Cycle Streets. I've been working with my colleague Simon on this project. We're a not-for-profit social enterprise. We're actually best known for doing cycle routing. So we provide data to third-party apps to help people find good routes and our own website as well. But we also do lots of development of tools for cycling advocacy. Next slide, please. So for decades, councils have created measures to stop traffic passing through residential areas. How is this done? Well, here's some examples of these modal filters, as they're called. So the top left modal filter is basically a bollard arrangement which stops cars but allows bikes and pedestrians. Top right, we've got the Grange Gorman quiet street with planters to stop through traffic. Third, in the bottom there, you've got a bus gate, so just for buses and bikes, and obviously people walking. And the last example is another use of planters. Next slide, please. These are really very common intervention, but there's actually, turns out there's no data on where they are. And sometimes when councils are trying to put them in or communities want to stop traffic, people who are against these ideas say, well, this is a very radical and new measure, but actually some of these were put in 40 years ago. And so by mapping them, we can embolden those working to create them, and they can show that they're very common and widespread, and really that they're not a new concept. But current mapping data doesn't actually say, here is a modal filter. It just shows, for example, that there's some sort of physical layout, so a bollard in the middle of a road or a short stretch of cycle lane. So basically there's no mapping where they are across the country. So what we've done is a major new piece of research which analyses street patterns to determine where these modal filters are. So for example, if you have a street like Grange Gorman Road, which has a short stretch only for walking and cycling in the middle with some bollards, that's a street pattern that we can detect. Next slide. So we've done two things, in fact. We've firstly mapped where the actual modal filter points are. And we've done this by writing thousands of lines of database code to detect these by algorithm. And we then created an online map, which you can see a screenshot of, and I'll give you the link at the end, showing where they're located. And we've had really good feedback from people at the council to help us refine the analysis and remove some errors. And thanks to the Smart Dublin open data, we've also been able to show that many are next to the cycle network. Next slide, please. So secondly, we've also done an analysis to see where through traffic is actually possible. by basically colouring every street as either red for through traffic or bluish green for not around. Again, there's no area-wide data on this. There's just data on where streets are, but there's never been an analysis of actually where through traffic is possible. So we've used the same data from OpenStreetMap, and we've analysed every street to see if it's a through traffic street or not. And again, this provides proof of a problem that decision makers and local people can help their case. And it also shows actually that very, very many streets are already traffic calmed and are basically low traffic neighbourhoods. And we've actually been able to extend this analysis in Dublin, in fact, to the whole of Ireland. Last slide, please. So our next steps really are to get more validation of data from people looking at it and checking there. And I'll just put the link in a moment with the password. We're keen to find more funding to enable us to detect more complex street patterns that collectively create motor filters. And we've even had some media coverage already of the work in The Guardian in the UK, where we've also extended the data to. We're very committed to maintaining this for the long term. We've actually set it to run automatically every day. And indeed, third parties can now embed the data feed in their own products. So I'll just put in the chat a link to the site, which people can have a look at together with the password, and also the data interface that's available. Thank you.
That's brilliant, Martin. Thank you. And it's great to hear that this is you're here for the long term, and this is not a short-term challenge-related project, but this will in fact live on afterwards, continue, hopefully to aid the drive towards active travel, no pun intended. So thanks a million, Martin. We also have a second project from Martin, which is from Cycle Streets. We'll move on to that after the next one. We'll come back to Martin again, but first we're going to have Not Made of Sugar, and it's Brian Mcguire for Not Made of Sugar. So Brian, we'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, so this is Not Made of Sugar, identifying and counteracting low active travel occasions. Slide. So just introduce the team. Myself, Brian Mcguire, I'm an applied researcher in machine learning, and Dave Anderson, who's a product manager. And I'm involved with the Dublin Cycling Campaign, and Dave's involved with the cycling.ie. And we're both big cyclists and active travel enthusiasts. Slide. So the basic problem that we're trying to tackle here is we can all kind of relate to getting on, waking up, finding it to be a wet, cold, blustery day, and deciding that we'd really rather the warm comfort of a car or the bus or the Lewis. And we arrive and we find that half of Dublin has decided to do the same thing. And everybody is in traffic, everyone's late, and everyone's a bit miserable. So our solution, slide. Our solution is to try to predict the times that will happen a day beforehand, and then try to encourage and nudge people into continuing to use active travel. And the goal here is not just to improve the days when when the weather is poor and improve the traffic, but also to try and convert people who might be sort of fair weather cyclists into people who can depend on their bike more broadly. They go out and they buy their rain gear and they work out how to deal with it. Next slide. So this is some of the data that we looked at. So from the bike sharing schemes, Bleeper Bike, Dublin Bikes, and DCC cycle counts, as well as historical weather forecasts from Met Éireann. Bleeper Bike was also able to give us some more granular data that was really important, and that's what we really focused on in this project. Slide. So this is the basic solution. What we did was we merged the data from Bleeper Bike along with the historical weather forecasts, and we used that to predict, to generate a model that could predict the number of people who'd be using their Bleeper bikes in the rush hour in the morning, based purely on what the weather was going to be like both that evening and the morning ahead. But the model predicts this number, and we use that to trigger a Twitter competition on the days that it expects to be kind of poor, that right combination of wind, rain, and coldness that gets people most off their bikes depending on the season. So the Twitter post goes up on Are You Made of Sugar, or at Are You Made of Sugar, and people can join it by taking a picture of themselves on their bike, wearing their rain gear, going to work or school. At the end of the day, we randomly select one person to win some swag. So that's the current solution. So next slide. In the future, what we want to do is, we've been in touch with the guys at the Dublin Cycling Buddy app, and they already have a pretty robust competition system. So we've been in discussion about integrating our model into that so that we can trigger competitions, cycling in the rain competitions on those particularly bad days. We're also looking at extending the Twitter profile to give it a little bit more information, tips, and reminders to people to get their rain gear out the day before. So that's the project. Thanks a million for everyone to listening. If you've got any more questions, please do reach out. Check us out on Twitter. And if anyone has any interest in learning more about the model or in using it in any integration, please do let me know. Yes.
That's great. Thank you, Brian. And thank you for giving the shout out to the Dublin Cycling Buddy, which isn't part of this challenge, but it is an app which Smart Dublin supports and came out of an earlier challenge that was run as well. So the Dublin Cycling Buddy, really helpful and useful app if you're a cyclist or thinking to use cycling. So check it out. And just to say there, we've had a mention of the press report in The Guardian about Martin and Cycle Street's project. I do believe there's a press article in the Dublin Inquirer today about Brian Mcguire and also the Not Made of Sugar initiative there. So check that out for some more information as well. So thank you, Brian. And I'll move on to our next speaker, which is back to Martin again and Cycle Street. So this time around, we're going to be talking about Widen My Path as an initiative and co-designing street design as part of that. So Martin, please come back to the floor.
So hello again, everyone. This is our second project, and I've been working with my colleague Patrick, and it's called Widen My Path Street Visions. So last year we made a website where just after the pandemic hit, where people could log on to a map and say where they want to improve streets, called widenmypath.com. It was actually just for the UK, but we actually had inquiries to extend it abroad. And it was designed really to help sort of councils with the question of social distancing and finding where to improve cycling and walking. And we had over 250,000 data submissions. So there was a lot of interest. But we really wanted to take this idea further. So first slide, please. So really the idea is to help enable communities to co-design street layouts. So currently that can be a very sort of top-down exercise. So supposing you have a newly traffic calm street, well, how could you improve that then to use the space better? Lots of things you could do. So things like adding cycle parking, seating, a cafe area, parklet, lots of things. And you can see that the kind of improvements that councils can do. Next slide. So we've created a website available publicly as an open beta. Anyone can come along and draw a location where they'd like to see the council make improvements at some point. And so you can see there are various schemes here that have been shown that come along, which we've been testing. And you can obviously search them by location. So next slide, please. So the idea really is that then that any member of the public can come along and basically set out their vision of how to improve the street. So you can see on the right of this screen, there are various sort of categories of street improvement. So cycling, walking, driving, and improving public space are the sort of 4 key categories. And so this person has created their vision simply by dragging on seating areas and a tree planter and so on onto the map. They also have to answer a few key questions. So to make sure that things like disabled access or effects on businesses have actually actively been thought about. And then once you've done that, people can save their vision, and each of the visions that people create could compete. So they can be discussed and upvoted, and the vision creator can iterate, so improve their vision based on the feedback that they get. So perhaps, someone's pointed out there might be I don't know, seating or a modal filter that blocks some entrances. Well, that's something they could adjust. And the idea is that the best visions then rise to the top as people upvote them. Next slide, please. There's also a budget feature, so that as you add things to the map, you drag them on, the budget sort of reduces, and that really encourages people to think about, well, public funding is limited, how can we best use that? Also, people often don't realise how much things cost. Junction can easily cost 50,000, 100,000 euros. Also, each type of scheme element has explanatory text. So, for example, not everyone knows what a parklet is, and so there's some text and it tries to explain the pros and cons of each type of thing. Next slide, please. So during the 8 weeks of the Dublin Challenge, we created an open beta in just those 8 weeks. We've included data from the Smart Dublin portal to give some context. So people can, for example, see where bike parking is, where cycle lanes are. And we've also processed some speed limit data. So again, you can also see that as well. We had some mentors from the council for our project, and they gave some really good feedback and some ideas which we incorporated. And I think they felt this could be a good way to encourage communities and to help them co-design schemes. Last slide, please. So we're now working to finalize the site. So it's an open beta. There's a few things that we still need to improve and finish off. We'd like people to try it out and send ideas. And we'd love to hear from any communities that would like to improve their area and use street visions to help do that. Thanks a million.
That's brilliant, Martin. Thank you very much. And as Martin laid out there, this is live and you can access it online and check it out yourselves and think about perhaps how this sort of thing might be incorporated with your work, if indeed you do work with communities, local authorities and planning and so forth. So thanks again, Martin. We'll move on to our next presenter now, which is Gary Lynch. So Gary's going to present to us on urban routes today. Gary.
Hi, everyone. So today I'll be presenting on the Urban Routes project, which aims to connect residents with walking routes in their local area. Next slide, please. So a little bit about me. I work as a senior media analyst at a company called Analytico, where I primarily work with social media data to help brands understand what's said about them online. And the reason I got involved in the Open Data Activetravel Challenge is that I'm really interested in making open data more accessible and usable for the wider public. Slide. So what problem does the Urban Routes project address? So local councils, government bodies, and other public organizations host a wealth of data and information about their local area. However, this information is rarely available in a format that can be used by everyday citizens. So, a lot of people don't know how APIs work, or, wouldn't be looking at a CSV file or Excel file to access this data. So the Urban Routes project looks to turn that open data into curated walking routes that can be accessed through a smartphone or a computer. The routes are available through a web app and can be searched by location, length, or theme to help people access that. And when a user finds a route that they would like to walk, the app connects them into that same route within Google Maps, which a lot of people have experience with and know how to use that platform. Slide. So who's the project for? So originally the Urban Routes project was conceived to help support those living in the city centre, particularly those who don't have access to a car. However, since then it's clear that this could be applied to a number of regions to connect residents with their locales' open data, and the interface is aimed to be accessible for a wide audience of users, which hopefully in this video you'll see that. So here we can see the landing page for the web app gives a little bit of information about the project and how it works. And you'll see on the sidebar, it shows that walks are grouped by themes and by locations here. And as you scroll through, you can see a list of different routes that have a map of what they look like. They include the length of the route, what type of route it is, and what location that route is based in. And when a user finds a route that they're interested in following, all they need to do is click on the View Route on Google Maps button. This will open that same route in Google Maps. The user can then, click on maybe specific amenities that they're interested that are on the route. They can get some more information and potentially see imagery of that route. And then if they want to walk that route, Google Maps will show them how to get onto that route, and they can follow the route from there. And that's the user journey that we see for Urban Routes. Slide. In terms of what's next for the project, I would love to work with an organization or a local council to further develop the ideas of the project and solicit user feedback from a wider audience. So if you'd like to follow the project and its progress, you can find us on Twitter at the account at RoutesUrban. And if you'd like to help out or support the project, or would just like to know more about it, you can reach out to me at gary@analytico.com. Thank you.
That's brilliant, Gary. Thanks a million. And as mentioned previously, we have both the chat and the Q&A functions enabled. But yeah, if you use Q&A, you could get through to Gary directly, and then as he says there's the Twitter handles and to follow, and the email that we provided and so forth. So next up we have Laura Bennett, who's going to talk to us about popular cycling routes without cycling infrastructure. So Laura, if you can take the floor, please.
Thanks, Luke. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so my name is Laura, and my project compares popular cycling routes to current cycling infrastructure. Next slide, please. So I've just graduated from UCD with a master's in biomedical engineering. As part of the master's, I completed my final year project, analysis of dockless bike sharing in Dublin, in which I utilized data from Dublin's dockless bike system, Bleeper. Come September, I'll be working as a data analyst in PM Group. Next slide, please. So the idea behind this project is to use the evidence of bike sharing data to determine common cycling routes in Dublin. These routes are then compared with the currently available cycling infrastructure on an interactive map. Next slide, please. So the main result from this project is a clear visualization of roads that are commonly used by cyclists but lack any cycling infrastructure. This highlights to local authorities the specific roads in the city that need new or renovated cycling infrastructure. Cycling infrastructure not only improves the safety of cycling in a city, but also the perception of safety. And low perception of safety is a key barrier in encouraging active travel. Next slide, please. So by using bike sharing data, this project is fully evidence-driven. Bike locations are drawn from the GPS systems of Bleeper's dockless bikes, and combined with cycle lane data, they can highlight any gaps in the system. Next slide, please. So in interest of time, I will demonstrate some screenshots of the interactive map. The focus area for this project was Dún Laoghaire Rathdown, and the blue area shows Bleeper's parking area. So this is where users are asked to park Bleeper bikes and therefore has a major influence on the route scene. Next slide, please. So with the addition of the cycling infrastructure layer, it is clear which roads are common with Bleeper users despite a lack of cycling infrastructure. So next slide, please. So just to look at some examples. So here is the Dundrum Churchtown area where we can see there's a lack of cycling infrastructure. And next slide, please. And it's also seen near UCD, Foster's Avenue, Booterstown Avenue. Next slide, please. The next steps for this solution includes expanding to other areas of the city and the incorporation of additional data from a variety of sources, which would provide further evidence of roads commonly taken by bike sharing users without cycling infrastructure. Any urban planners or members of local authorities are welcome to contact me for use of this solution. Thank you very much.
That's great, Laura. Thank you very much. And as mentioned previously, all those contact details will be provided at the end. So without further ado, we'll move on to our next presentation, which is Michael Beakey, and it's active travel counts. So Michael, can you take the floor, please?
Yeah, thanks, Luke. My name is Michael Beakey. I'm going to talk about my project, Activetravelcounts.ie, that I've developed over the last couple of months. Slide. So what is Activetravelcounts.ie? It's an interactive website that provides self-service analytics of active travel count data sets, currently for Dublin City Council, but I'm looking at integrating data from other local authorities. So you could explore these data sets using maps, charts, various types of charts, and various KPIs that I've developed. So for example, you can look at the busiest locations for pedestrian or cycle travel, the locations with the most evening traffic, most weekend traffic. You can look at the distribution by the day of the week or by the hour of the day. And the goal here really is to reduce the time and skill barrier that might exist to exploiting the data sets. So we don't want the data set sitting on a portal being unused or maybe just infrequently used by a number of individuals. We'd like to allow anybody really with a web browser to get the insights and get the value from these data sets. Slide. So there are three use cases. The classic one is the evaluation of an active travel project. So you do a before and after analysis. You can get insights into trends as they emerge. That doesn't necessarily have to do with a particular project, but it just could be general trends. And then thirdly, it facilitates advocacy and communication around active travel. And I'm going to demonstrate these three use cases now. Slide. So the first one is there was a linear park put in about a year ago, which plugs a 700-meter gap in the Royal Canal cycle route. That was put in August 2020. We're 1 year on. Can we measure the impact using the website? Slide. So we can look at all the locations and see the volumes of traffic between now and a year ago. And what we see is that all locations have the same volume of traffic as they had a year ago, except for two, which happen to be at either end of the new cycle route. So that's Charleville Mall. And you can see the graph there, it's up 100% since when the new cycle route opened. And then Gill Street on the other end of the cycle route is also up. So we have some hard numbers. We can easily see and quantify the impact of the infrastructure project. Slide. Second one is on the insights. So this is Grove Road, which is one of the busier locations inbound pre-COVID, so February 2020. We can see there 34% of the traffic in a single hour, which is the 8 a.m. rush hour. And then if we include the hour before and after, that actually is 61% of the total daily cycling traffic at that location, with relatively little traffic outside that morning rush hour period tap. And then post-COVID, we can see that the morning commuter traffic has largely gone away. It only accounts for 10% of the daily cycling count. But we have traffic in the afternoon where we didn't have before. And we also have an evening rush hour. So this is evening time heading into town, which we didn't have before. So the implication seems to be that it used to be just exclusively morning commuters, but now we have leisure cyclists and Deliveroo. So the cycle route has been used in a different way 1 year on. Slide. And the third one then is advocacy and communication. So a couple of tweets which have cycle count information that I saw, one from Dublin City Council and one from Dún Laoghaire Rathdown. So they're saying that 6,000 people used the cycle route on that particular day. And there are some nice pictures of blue skies and cycle routes, and then tap. So the point here is really, if you include a chart, and it doesn't have to be a time series, you can say, you can provide the context. You can say, this is where we were, this is where we're going to, and this is the impact that our project had. And it just provides more context, and it provides hard numbers, which, well, hopefully will take some of the heat out of the conversations about these kind of projects. Slide. So what's next? I'm looking to integrate data sets from Dún Laoghaire Rathdown. That's a top priority. I want to take in other data sets like temperature and rainfall. And the most important one really is I want to work with local authorities to see how do they use this data currently, and can active travel counts become part of the workflow. Thanks, Luke.
Thank you, Michael, that's brilliant. Thanks a lot for talking us through that. And as Michael says there, that website is live, active-travels-counts.ie. And again, you can reach out to Michael either through the chat or indeed through the emails that we're providing at the end. So our final presentation today is from David Timoney and Santos Fernandez Noguerol, and we're going to be told all about Dublin Bay by Bike, the active interactive map that they've developed as part of this challenge. So I'd like to invite the both of you to take the floor, please, and tell us all about your application. Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Luke. Our project is an interactive map of the Dublin Bay cycle route. It's a collaboration between Dublin Cycling Campaign and the Geomatics Department in TU Dublin. Slide. The project tries to address four of the main challenges we have in Dublin. The first, obviously, is traffic congestion, with Dublin being one of the most congested cities in Western Europe, according to the data. We've got a climate crisis, and we've got aggressive transport carbon reduction targets over the next 10 years. We've got a physical inactivity crisis that is going to lead to a health crisis, with only 1 in 2 adults and 1 in 5 school kids reaching their recommended weekly activity levels. And finally, we've got a gender imbalance in cycling, with only 1 in 4 adults who cycle in Dublin being female. And when it comes to teenagers, only 1 in 10 people who cycle in Dublin are female. Slide. So how does our project help replace private car trips with active travel? Well, firstly, we know that segregated cycling infrastructure allows people of all ages and abilities to cycle. How do we know that? Well, we know from our own eyes by looking at the coastal route in Dún Laoghaire and the Grand Canal route. And we also know from the research, the NTA Bike Life report from 2019 showed that while only about 1 in 10 adults in Dublin cycle regularly, almost 50% want to cycle or cycle more, but they won't do it unless there's segregated routes. So as Santos will show on the next slide, this map identifies segregated and graded mixed traffic routes. What that does really is it allows people to plan their route based on their level of experience and confidence, and encourages people to get out on this segregated route to build confidence. It certainly raises awareness of the coastal route from both the potential from both the commuting and leisure perspective, and hopefully grows support for completion of the route. And I see that in the last couple of days, another section has been completed on Sean Moore Road, which is great to see. As Santos will show, there's lots of data incorporated in the map, so it encourages people to use the local villages, spend money. And we know we have Poolbeg coming on stream, and we absolutely need a coastal route going along. So over to Santos now for the map.
Okay, yeah, if you, thank you, David. So if you can start the live demo now, please. So, okay, so the web map, as you can all see, consists of a very simple user interface meant to be used mainly on smartphones, although it works on any device that has a web browser installed. Since the beginning of the project, we were highly committed with cyclist safety, and especially with families and their children. That is why we broke up the route into 4 categories as represented in the bottom right legend. Note that we also indicated the pedestrians only, where cyclists should lock their bikes and continue walking from there. The map also has a great level of detail, and now as we zoom into the O'Leary, we can find numerous bike parking point of interest, and of course the cycle network. The point of interest, as displayed there, are the most touristic feature on the map, showing a nice picture of the place, a brief description, related website links, and the different amenities and activities in the area. Lastly, we would like to remark that open data has been used extensively during the development of the map, and that most of the data sets come from Smart Dublin. And now back to you, David.
Thanks, just back to the presentation slide. So in terms of the next steps, look, this map is ready for launch straight away. So we're going to launch it on social media and perhaps have a press release, traditional media, and we will get feedback to inform future developments. Longer term, lots of potential, different layers for kids and adults, coastal QR quiz, perhaps a treasure trail. We started to speak to local historians to try and get local information on places of interest to make it interesting for Dubliners as well as tourists. And there are amazing plans for Dublin Port from a cycling perspective. It's been completely opened up over the next couple of years, and we want to integrate those into the map. Call to action, and what we need now is we need help. We need to speak to local councils or anybody involved in the tourism, environmental, active travel section. We want to meet with you, want to see how we can promote the route and also to explore further developments. So thanks for your time.
That's brilliant. Thank you, David, and thank you, Santos, and thanks for ending with a call to action, because your project and those which came before you are likely to require some kind of engagement or potential support. So that might be to do with publicizing, making people aware of what you're doing and get engagement that way. You might be looking for advice or feedback on what's not going to work and not going to work from a policy making perspective, for example, or from a user perspective. Or there might be some more kind of specific help that might be looked for, such as hosting requirements or financial support, funding, access to knowledge or access to funding streams, that kind of thing. So all of this is support that we as public bodies, as the general public, and as advocacy groups can reach out to you and provide. So do please, people, engage with all these projects that have come so far. So I'd like to congratulate you, all 12 of you. They were really, really powerful projects, and they are really, really powerful projects, and most of them will continue to be going forward. So it was a pleasure seeing them develop through the course of this challenge, and really delighted with what has come out the other side. So, however, we do have 12 projects that we'd like to say we're all winners, and they're all really, really doing a good job in terms of using open data and promoting active travel. However, we have done an evaluation process of which we do have 3 prize winners. So we'd like to just move on to address each of those. So from back to top, we'll start with the second runner-up. So if we could move on to the next slide, please. I'd like to introduce Katie Chapman and Dublin Bike Parking. Katie, would you like to say a word or two? Congratulations on winning your prize.
Sure, yeah. Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank each of the Dublin local authorities who have helped out throughout the time, along with Bleeper, Moby and JC Deso with Dublin Bikes.
That's brilliant, Katie. Thank you, and thanks for your project. It's great to see the site that you have there come along, and the progress that has been made throughout. And just to say that Katie mentioned the engagement that we've had from the bike share providers, which has been really good. So we already have open data that we publish from all 3 bike share providers in Dublin. However, through the course of the challenge, they engage with the projects that were developed, and have, in some cases, provide data over and above what they're already providing as open data. So thank you to the bike share providers, and thank you to all the other providers of data that have come through. For example, the Dublin Culture Company, who provide the Dublin Culture Map, which again is an interactive map where you can see different events and activities and cultural amenities nearby. They provided their data set to some of the projects coming through as well. So thank you to all the data providers, much appreciated, and especially thank you for Katie and a really powerful project. So that's great. We'll move on to the next one now. So we have another prize winner to move on to, and our second prize winner is not this one, it's the one before this one. Can we move back a slide? Is John Kennedy. So congratulations, John Kennedy. It's Activetravel to School and Locating Investment for Impact. So John, would you like to say a word or two?
Well, just thank you very much, Luke. That's fantastic. Like, that was very tough competition. There's some wonderful projects. I learned a lot. So I really appreciate the recognition. So thanks to you and all the supporters of Smart Dublin for organising it. And maybe a shout out to the people who have published the open data, because none of us could do anything without the data that has been published. It's rarely part of someone's job description. So thanks to the people in the audience who are publishing this data. And just a final one, maybe just a shout out to openstreetmap.ie. If you do have data that might be useful there, yeah, reach out to that community at openstreetmap.ie, and they'd love to hear from you. So thanks again.
That's brilliant, John. Thank you. And thank you for thanking all the data providers on our behalf, because without them, of course, we wouldn't have a platform and we wouldn't have jobs. So thank you. And thanks again to all the data providers. Much appreciated for all the work you've done. So now we're about to move on to our third prize winner, which is in fact the top prize winner. So I think, yeah, it's already up on the screen. We have the representatives from Los Pedalinks here. So can I bring Katie and or your colleagues, Luciana and Rob, to the floor and maybe say a couple of words. Congratulations, Los Pedalinks.
Thanks so much. We're thrilled. We had a big shock there, mini spoiler. Just to say we really enjoyed the challenge, and it was a huge learning experience. We wanted to say thanks to Deirdre and Brian, who are our mentors, and also to Jason and Emma from our work as well, who gave us a lot of useful feedback. And then to Luke, of course, for organising the challenge. And just that all of the submissions were so cool. So it's really exciting to be seeing them all and seeing the shift towards active travel. Luciana, if you want to add anything?
No, I'm happy. Thank you all. Thanks for all the support that we received through this challenge. It was really challenge for us, and we are happy to be on board of that.
So that's great. Yep. Thank you, Katie, and thank you, Luciana, and thanks to all the Pedalinks team for this really powerful project. And it has been mentioned the effort that the mentors have put in, and also the collaborative atmosphere and co-working between all the participants. So everybody was very much there to support and help each other to provide information and expertise. And we have a lot of expertise in this group. So I'd like to thank all of you participants for the collaboration that you showed each other and the work that you've done to support one another, as well as all the mentors who were also really instrumental in seeing this develop. So we'll move on to the next slide, if that's okay. So those were the 12 participating projects. As we've seen, it doesn't end here. The projects, most of them are live. You can see them online. We have links to them that you'll be able to check out. And some of them are still in progression and still developing and moving on and moving forward and getting better as time goes on. And as that happens, they'll want feedback, they'll want advice, and they'll want engagement along the way. So do please check them out. Do please feedback and engage with them. We are creating a Sway, which is kind of a bit akin to an online brochure, which will have some images and some descriptions about all the projects that are in there. We'll also have contact details there as well, and I'll provide them on a slide at the end. I'd like to just give a shout out to Open Data and ask everybody that's here at this presentation to value, to nurture, and to publish data as open data, to use the data that's already there on our own open data platform, on the national one at data.gov.ie, and then which everything is published on ours is published on theirs, and then also published on the European one. So do please check them out, engage with them, and use them if you're an open data user, and keep providing and continue to provide and provide more data if you're a data provider. So I'd like to thank all the organizing committee. We had a really wide set of knowledge there, which was really useful and really helpful to have on board and really help with the development of the project. So thank you to all the organizing committee. I'd like to thank the National Open Data Programme, as I say there, data.gov.ie, who have provided the funding as well as help with getting the word out, getting engagement, and so forth. You've been great. Thanks to the National Open Data Unit at DEPA. I'd like to say a look out for this, hold this idea in your head about doing open data challenges. We do intend to do more. This was our first open data Activetravel challenge, and we intend to move on maybe from Activetravel to other sections going forward. So do please stay tuned to see how this develops. And of course, as highlighted earlier by Ciaran in his keynote, let's all try to keep active so we can save all the emissions, save all the money, and save our health, as he stated out there. I'll just move on to the last slide now, which will give everybody's contact details. So that's just, I suppose, a recap of all the people that have spoken today, their contact details there, the emails. We'll follow up with an email to everybody that did register today. So you'll get a link to the recording of the webinar, and you'll get contact details too, and you get a link to the Sway as well. So I believe we've made great time. We were, in fact, due to finish up by 1:30. I was concerned that there was a danger of going over, but we're actually finishing 5 minutes early. So that's 5 minutes back for your lunch hour. So thanks again to everybody. Thanks to everybody for attending. Thanks to all the participants, the organizing committee, and for everybody that make this happen. And keep active, as the man says.